What's up, everybody? It's CDT5 and most of the shells. There are some who weren't able to make it, but
the cool ones.
The cool ones, yes.
One for the best at feeding.
For the first time in my life, I am one of the cool ones. We should all celebrate and get pizza. Alright. So, as we heard a few days ago, Overwatch 2, whenever it releases, 5 years from now, it's gonna go 5v5. And, if you've watched the pros and the people who actually make money doing this, there are some emotions all over the place. But, we haven't talked about it that much, and I wanted to see what everybody thought. So, what is everybody's initial thoughts of 5v5?
I mean, I can go first. I mean, with a 5v5, with it limiting to only one tank, a team, and then just climbing the competitive ladder, you will now do or die by that tank. If the tank's having a bad day, you're basically done. I mean, especially in a competitive league type sense. I mean, a comp game, you can have still, Widow pop off, kill all the squishies now a lot easier, but there's also one less tank that they have to kill. So it's a balance of two things where DPS can now pop off and more easily carry. At the same time, a tank, it's one person's job to make space, and if they can't make space, go GG, go next.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not sure if you guys saw the gameplay that the devs were doing. It was painful. The tanks existed, and that was it. And they were, the devs were talking about, what if you have a Smurf Widow? A Smurf Widow is pretty much GG, go next, tilt all the way to the moon.
I think they talked briefly on how the story problem too. Two-factor authentication. They can do this thing that Counter-Strike does with the have your number tied to the account and everything else like that. Would probably be beneficial to put in.
With what they revealed, it seems like the game's actually a whole lot farther away than they said it was. They said 2020, then 2021. But if they're trying to make all the tanks viable and not get melted, they pretty much have to rework everybody except for maybe Tracer.
You're speaking like Blizzard cares about fair and balanced.
let's be honest, with it changing to 5v5 and the amount of heroes that they want to add, everyone's going to have to relearn the game, almost from scratch. The amount of heroes that they're changing, the ones that they're introducing, the fact you're only going to play one tank, it's not going to play the same even if you pick 5 characters in the game now. Especially with the new map type as well, I'm more excited about that than the change to 5v5.
One thing that's interesting is they said, all of your sprays, unlockables, basically everything's going to carry over, but they didn't say anything about your level. So I don't know if they're going to reset us all at once. A lot of people are actually
wondering if the levels are actually going to full reset.
But Flats was talking on his stream earlier today, people were talking about what's going to be different, or if you're going to keep playing Overwatch long. He was like, well, it's going to be a totally different game as soon as the game comes out. Overwatch 1 is basically going to cease to exist, because it's just this other game. I don't think they would necessarily change your levels. They do the same thing that Call of Duty does, where you get a special emblem for your prestige stuff. Which I would imagine that would probably factor in.
I can definitely see something, the change to 5v5 does make it feel like they want to go and differentiate themselves from other shooter games in general, they go into the kind of more similar format to what MOBAs have. Because Overwatch has always been advertised a cross between a shooter game and a MOBA, a cross between your Counter-Strike and your League of Legends or something like that. and so that it feels like they're mirroring that format. It feels like it's quite long in the life of the game to make a change like that.
Well, I don't know. Isn't Warzone 5v5?
Warzone? No,
I can't remember.
Warzone's 3v. Like, I think the biggest squad you can do is 3.
Oh,
I think
okay.
so, yeah, it's like 3 or maybe 4.
Call of Duty is 5v or 6v6. Most
Traditionally has been.
Yeah, 6v6. Yeah, because it's 12 versus 20. But I mean, Counter Strike's 5v5. It always has been.
Translocating.
I mean, the thing is, though, with those games, like, I mean, those are technically like 5 DPSs running around. Like, yeah, you try and make sure like 1% on your team, like, would have a sniper or, you know, some ARs and SMGs, whatever, like, you know, the strong meta guns are. But like, Overwatch having a tank and a support specific role is slightly different. Because the easier comparison that I know I was thinking about was to kind of like World of Warcraft, where, you know, you got the 1 tank, 3 damage, and 1 support or something like that. Like, and that's easiest where I can see like that is. But at the same time, you know, there's also a difference between that as well as what Overwatch has been to this point by quite a long time.
Yeah, this changed time and time again about being like, is it more of a shooter game or is it more of a public game? So I think like, the whole point is having like hero shooter with like Overwatch Paladins. What else has come out like that? There's been like a handful of games that have come out around the time that Overwatch came out that were all trying to do kind of the same thing. They're all just told that they were copying off one another. But yeah, like, it's not a shooter game when it gets down to it. It's a hero-based game.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw the news, I was a little butthurt because it's like, look, I just got done getting freaking melted, stunned, pooped, mostly sim turret froze into oblivion, and now you're gonna tell me that I got nobody who has my back?
I ain't too worried about it. Like, they changed how the characters work so frequently. Like, what, every month there's an update to how a character works, almost completely changes all the percentages. So it's like, if you're gonna do that, like, you're definitely gonna take the time to change percentages of how the characters work.
Yeah, they'll say, oh, Ryan's not viable. Ryan's getting his ass kicked, so we're just gonna change him up and make him better, and then Ryan will be super strong, and there'll be a Ryan meta.
And then we'll buff Reaper.
Yep.
Yeah, they do it every week.
Pretty much. But, you know, the way I always thought about Overwatch in general is it reminds me a lot of football. And I used to play football a lot, which is what originally drew me to the game. To game it inches, people have to work together, and there's a hard line almost all the time that you either push through or you don't push through in one capacity or another. And it feels like Overwatch 2 is going to be more like basketball. There's some similarities. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I definitely see and like get that reference, and you know, because I say, especially with being at less people, you know, with basketball, right? You only need like 2, maybe 3 solid players. You can have 2 just average people. But if you have 2 or 3 or just 1 superstar on your team, that 1, 2, or 3 people can carry your team over most other players, and those people will be like the stars shining, and the other 2 players are just kind of there for the ride, you know. DPS that, you know, you have a Widow Smurf on your team, or one person's a really good Widow player, you're just an average Torb one trick. The Widow just has to carry you and you're good to go.
Yeah, with all that space, they can't really stop Widow or Hanzo or Ashe from just doing whatever they want. Somebody could literally just emote their way through a game.
I'm kind of scared of the Widow Reaper kind of picks kind of team comps now, because if you think about it, if you have a like a monkey Monkey to dive the Widow, he's just gonna be landing on a Reaper, and then he'll get melted. And you've got the other tank to back him up. The defense matrix to back him up. Could make things a lot harder to, like, execute a dive if you only got half, if you've been missing like one of the key parts of it.
It seems like dive tanks are actually the easiest to fix dealing with it, because really all you have to do is like intensify their mobility, either have their jump cooldowns shorten or increase the distance. Because I mean, there was that adjustment where Diva had her boosters every 3 seconds, and everybody thought it was a gag. Then they had to dial it back because she could literally just be everywhere. So if they actually do that, I could see the dive tanks adjusting really well to it. Or like Reinhardt, what are you gonna do if you have somebody just jumping around everywhere? You literally have nobody to fight. Let's say there's a Wrecking Ball, a Hanzo, a Widow, and an Ana and a Zen that you have, and then you have Reinhardt, and they just mirror it. So it's Reinhardt, Widow, Hanzo, and a Zen. Who is Reinhardt gonna fight? Like not even from a winning perspective, but from an interaction and actually playing the game perspective.
Swap the counter.
How do you even fight? Like,
I feel like in that perspective, you just switch up your DPS, use like a Tracer Sombra or something. Them healers are going to be like free game. We're sending the Ana would be in that comp with the ball.
Actually,
Snipers.
I didn't even think about
there's
that.
There's literally no appeal for those supports. Like, how are you ever going to be able to play like an Ana unless you've got like McCree or something sat on you?
Well, even from just the fun factor, how would somebody feel being a Reinhardt, walking around, and there's nobody to fight? Literally. Like how are they going to adjust a Reinhardt being able to fight a dive tank if like, to a degree now, there's another tank, there's always going to be some semblance of fighting somebody, because for one, you have another tank that can go get what your Reinhardt can't, and they can't avoid you forever in this iteration of the game. But it sounds like in the next one, they were talking about map development, and they're gonna have to develop the map in a way that Reinhardt can interact with other characters in general, because he's unique to everyone else, that he has to be close up all the time in order to get value, and they don't look like they're going to change that.
What I'm hearing is
fire strike. I can't see how you improve his like range beyond what he's looking at.
He does have like a rocketed charge. Maybe that rocketed charge lets him fly.
That would be hilarious. I would love that.
It sounds like you want to give Reinhardt wall climb, which I'm all for.
Oh, everybody gets wall climb. Fine.
I would love that.
Anybody
Soldier
within Lucio's aura should get the same war and capabilities as him.
Oh man, look, no.
Well, imagine if they introduced a new character that did something like that.
I played Jet Set Radio Future back on PlayStation 1, and that would get old very fast.
Or we just put bounce pads everywhere and turn it into Quake.
Well, I hope that, there was actually some really good stuff with the April Fool's match. Like Zenyatta being able to float for 3 seconds. That would be pretty kicking in Overwatch 2. Be able to get to high ground on your own and take some high range duels. Alright, so what do you guys think about the new game 5v5 for bronze tacos in the league?
Feel the healing beat.
Well, I know from like a team perspective, individualized, like teams such as like DB who have like 6 tanks on the roster, it's gonna be a hit to us. I mean, you know, it's gonna be a different thing just casting as well as like designing teams, and you know, a lot of leagues gonna have to readdress, you know, their player caps and everything else, because every team's player caps is centered around this idea of, you know, playing 6 people per map, which is why a lot of times it's a 12-player cap in leagues. Some players fight +2 to 14, and so on and so forth. I mean, I think it's going to be, you know, I mean, player cap's just one thing, like, just off the top that potentially could be directly affected just because of not having as many people on out there as usual. And, you know, it's going to be also interesting to see from a league play perspective how tanks perform outside of the competitive ladder, where, you know, as a tank you go up against some mediocre tanks on the other team, or tanks are having a bad day, you climb, then you get to a league and oh, great, my usual plat tank is now up against a Masters tank because I just happened to get a run of cruddy tanks I played against the last couple weeks.
Yeah, well, I know that it's too early to tell. I guess this would be a question for Vinyl or Yarbles or Lily. Like, do you see an expanded range of SR allowance for compensating for tanks? Are tanks going to be able to have a higher range of, since they're going to be by themselves?
I mean, if you think about it, with tanks being by themselves, like, the good tanks are going to rise even quicker. So, if anything, it should make the tanks on the same level actually play close to each other.
I really don't see us changing SR special just for tanks in a league when you could have a cap of, well, platinum, and then, oh, we're going to allow diamond tanks. That's not going to fly.
Well, not necessarily like, you know, oh man, we're going to let Masters tanks into Verde or anything like that.
Oh, that sounds like our day comp.
Sounds like Tilterific. But like
the single tank, the only difference is single tanks, just the team's gonna have to work together with a single tank instead of 2. They're gonna go up against a team that has a single tank. So, I mean, it's really not that big of a change for the league.
I feel like people, when you're building your team compositions, you're gonna have to think less about. You're gonna think more carefully about your team composition, like who's gonna do the peel, who's gonna be the high ground contest. These questions aren't necessarily gonna be answered. All gonna be answered.
DPS are gonna have to actually peel for the tank
going
or
to
for the
even
supports.
matter?
I mean, the DPS, it's a job that the DPS are gonna have to pick up more of.
Like, yeah, it's like you get, like, say it's me, and I'm a bronze DPS and damn proud of it. But say I have a, oh crap, that's a huge spider. I'm sorry, just a spider just crawling towards me on the couch like it's wanting to murk me or something. I just lost train of thought.
Yeah, you play a long range DPS to create space, and a short range to protect the healers. And you get the healers are going to be more. They're going to be killing shit more because they're going to have less to heal too. So you can have.
But what if there's just a long range diff and you have a widow that's just spanking you all over the map? Like, how do you?
Well, how do you deal with it now?
Does that mean you can get a monkey up there?
it's
how you
one less
deal with
target
it
for the
now
Widow
is
to
you
hit
get a
us.
Hammond or a Diva or a Winston and just go harass them until they leave you alone.
Well, you
But-
get a Hammond or a Winston or a Diva, and you go harass her. Like that doesn't change.
Does it?
Coordinate with your DPS, and no, that doesn't change. You're still gonna have a dive DPS. You dive the Widow.
But then you only have a dive DPS.
You got 2
One
DPS.
thing I think that's gonna change a lot. There's gonna be a heck of a lot more switching. Like people are going to be switching their characters 3-4 times a point.
If that's the case, then they need to do something about the way ults, like how powerful ults are or how quickly you build them then, because the team that is switching to counter is just going to end up losing an ult economy every single time when you switch that often, as things currently stand, so that's going to need a rebalance if they're trying to design the game to encourage switching more often.
Well,
Like either ults need to generate quicker or be less powerful.
And they actually
definitely
do the
seems like-
opposite.
Oh, let's break it down!
So I was just gonna say, because they've actually done the opposite, because that tank doesn't give. It gives, what, 50% of ult that it used to now in Overwatch 2, is what they have that they're experimenting with right now. So actually it's the opposite direction. Rather than ults generating quicker, you're having it also generate more slowly, which would actually emphasize that point of whoever's
The mid-fight.
switching more would
Audio medic!
get less value.
It just... I feel like it's going to play out similar to... Like, not the same, but similar to Mystery Heroes, in that once you get an ult, it's going to be so strong because they come up less often if people are generating them slower.
Which is something that they were talking about trying to do before, so that wouldn't necessarily be terribly surprising. Just it'll definitely be interesting seeing how everything works out, and I'm actually excited to see how it works out for League. I'm pretty jazzed about that because League is pretty entertaining right now. The added intensity of, like, if there's a tank difference or a DPS difference, and hopefully there's not that significant, because we all want it to be competitive and whatnot.
I really don't think it's going to change much. I think it'll come out 5v5, and people will come up with badass comps, and Blizzard won't fix it until, you know, everyone's tired of it, and then they'll fix it,
I do,
and they'll come
I
up
do
with new
feel like
comps.
that initial phase where everyone is still learning how 5v5 works and how the new characters synergize with the old ones, it's going to see an awful lot of unbalanced matchups until people get their heads around things. But then it's that big of a change that even if they like introducing that many characters and map types at once, it's going to cause that even if they don't change to 5v5.
Oh yeah,
so
just having brand new characters
it's
added
just-
in too. is
yeah.
gonna-
But doing more than one character at a time, like they're talking about adding what 3, 4, 5 maybe.
I think they're doing
with the launch of
either 6 or 8, actually.
Yeah, so working out how these characters like synergize with each other is definitely gonna cause teams to be running mismatched comps, like until you work out what's strong and what isn't.
I'm more excited about the new maps.
Yeah,
especially the new map type to replace 2CP.
we need content. You know what? I am in the minority. I actually am gonna miss 2CP.
Here.
I am going to miss it a whole lot. I love
Says the man who loves Paris.
Alright, so Paris is a little obnoxious. Just
I like Paris. Just play ball
Okay.
and feed. GG's, go next.
alright, so it wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't just a straightaway the whole time. It's like, hey Widow, here's my butt.
That Rio map looks pretty good.
Yeah,
that looks dope.
I like Rio. I'm actually not that big of a fan of New York City.
What was the Canadian one?
Toronto, I think.
Toronto,
Yeah.
yeah. I like the look of that. I think it was that one I saw.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the New York look.
Yeah, it just honestly it felt samey.
But they're all payload maps too. They're all.
I know. Toronto, I think, was the.
Well, yeah, Toronto's the new map.
Toronto's
But...
push and Roma's push. They showed
And Gothenburg,
Rome.
I think, as well. I don't know if they've shown it yet, but I know I've seen
Oh, I haven't
at
seen
least
Rome.
artwork. I've not seen Rome yet.
Well, I guess we shall see. At least how it all shakes out. I'm sad, but
Give me 20.
They just need to release the damn thing.
yeah, pretty much. Like
I'm
at
not
this
going to get the
point,
balance right until like the mass get their hands on it. Or at least give it to pros, because from what I've heard, it's like in-house testing so far, and they're not going to play it have the same like. They're not good grass scenes anyway as quickly as the pros are.
yeah. And it's weird that there are people who can break the game way faster than the developers. Like that's the job of a pro in this type of game, is break the game. And you would think that with playtesting and whatnot, that you would give it to the people who break the game to see what breaks and how you can fix it before. But I guess that's the whole culture of games now is they call it interactive development, as opposed to, oh hey, we messed it up and brought out an unfinished product. But that's more theoretical and game philosophy stuff than. Ow! Hello. But anybody else have any thoughts that we haven't covered? I don't know if anybody's in chat who has questions or anything like that. This isn't a long video by any means. It's just we're getting together, and I was curious about everybody's thoughts on Overwatch 2 whenever it comes out, if it ever comes out. I think that's what I'm more irritated about than anything is.
Coming winter 2028. Overwatch.
Pretty much. Because
It's probably just
like,
a troll game. It doesn't really exist.
I mean, it's more like
seriously,
Overwatch
they've been talking about this
1.5
since
anyway.
2018, and I get the whole COVID thing. I understand that, but just give a date. Stop teasing. If it is 2023 or 2024 or 2025, just say it's gonna be 2023, 2024, or 2025.
Fire at will.
This game has gotten stale because of the lack of content. So
I mean, we haven't had a new hero since Echo.
it's
We
been
haven't
over
had
a
a
year.
new map since Paris that got pulled out of rotation. Or no, Havana. We had Havana afterwards.
Oh
Then
my
we've
goodness,
had,
we
we've
haven't
had
had it.
Paris pulled out rotation as well. And the events have been just repeats of previous years as well from last year, which has also kind of been meh.
For the last, you mean since the first year? There's been repeats. You haven't had anything new. But the only new thing we've got was just before Havana came out. In terms of events, and everyone since like all the summer games has just been like the map reskinned to a different Lucio Ball map. Always had the same main things come back for winter.
It's the
Like-
same. I mean, I think they have a new map, but it's just different backgrounds. Same Lucio Ball. They've added a few new modes during the events, but it's like just the same crap. You're just doing something slightly different.
Yeah, and I think that you guys are hitting something that's even more significant than any of this stuff that we're talking about to begin with. Is we're playing the game to experience stuff like stories and gameplay and interaction, and like this isn't a physical sport where you compete against people with different physical elements and different stories and whatnot. We're just running on a treadmill at this point. And
I mean, I'm not one of those people, like, I don't give a shit about the lore. I like this game because I look at it like chess. And it's like a team-based. It's fun when you have... I'd rather lose in a 6-stack than have a bunch of randoms that are toxic assholes. I'd rather have friends, a 6-stack of friends playing this game. Like, it's a great time. And it's still a great time, but it's just getting a little stale when you're having to play the same characters over and over again on the same maps.
yeah, there have been a few times where I've just I want to. No, last night with Evan and everybody was freaking fun. That was a ton of fun.
It's usually a good time with Evan.
Oh yeah.
As long as we're not trying to go up SR, like, it's always a good time.
You know what? I drew even. It wasn't too bad.
So I think I went one game above last night, somehow.
It stings more because we're not getting new content because of Overwatch 2, and they have yet to give us the release date.
Yeah, and they're delaying it till the 28th, or not 28th, to 2028. So you're literally...
Oh, I just threw out 2028.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Oh, you're making jokes. Okay.
Yeah,
no, I got you.
my God.
I got confused. It's fine.
Yeah, if they were going to 2028,
2028.
No,
Bronze
but that's the
Tacos
point,
is
like,
turning
they-
into a
like it.
Paladin server.
Like 2028 doesn't feel unrealistic anymore. That's
No, it
the problem.
doesn't.
So what you're
doesn't feel
saying is we're going to
insane.
get Half-Life 3 first?
Yeah.
Oh my god, we probably
much.
would.
Even a revamp
Like-
Duke would be forever.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Blizzard, you don't know who we are. You probably don't care. But stop with the teasing and actually give us stuff. Give us stuff to play. Give us stuff to do. We want to actually
Like, that's all
do
it is.
stuff.
They can 100% add stuff into this game. They're just choosing not to.
Especially with the fact that Overwatch 2 is just
Bye,
it's
Lily.
not even like a huge update. It's all the multiplayer
Like-
shit's going to be in Overwatch 1 as well. All the new characters.
Yeah,
all the new
everything
maps.
they've said at this point, aside from PvE, has little to no significance.
That's what I mean. They don't have to like give us everything, but like every once in a while, give us something new.
Give us one new hero a year. I'll take one a year. You know.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. That doesn't feel like a lot.
It's been
At
a year.
this
and
Hope that if they're going to one tank, 2 DPS and 2 supports, that a lot of the new heroes are going to be supports, because if you're going to have 2
Saying
supports,
that,
2
but
DPS and
when's
1
the
tank,
last
you
new
need more
support?
BAP.
BAP.
Bad.
Yeah.
And
But
he
you-
feels
what
like
you
forever ago.
Yeah, but what you need is the same amount of range of supports that you have at DPS if you're going to balance it 1-2-2. Right?
That's true.
That'd
Yeah, and
be
I
one way
guess
to
they
at least
don't need
freshen things
to-
up a little bit more.
They don't need the variants on
To the
tanks
same
anymore.
level of... Yeah.
That's true. Well, I saw something where they're talking about Sim might be going to support.
I really hope so. I'm so sick.
Sim
of
was
getting
on
frozen
support.
But like
they're not
actually
saying
being
like
healing.
Might
They
go
would
to
make
tank.
her an actual
Well, I
hero.
don't see too much difference between May and Hawking in terms of their actual tankiness ability.
I mean, here's the thing with them choosing to also go to one tank. Support is the category with the least amount of heroes. Grant, tank is only one hero above it. But, like, supports now, it's going to be even more obvious just how few heroes there are to choose from in that category as compared to the other categories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
you can currently play double sniper, double spam, double hit scan, double dive.
Double flyers.
Exactly, there's so many different options that you can play for your DPS, and yet your supports are limited to like the same few pairings because there's just not the same options.
Yeah, and they were talking about other stuff like making.
I'd like to see supports that are like not healing based as well, like the way that Lucio is mainly used as speed boost. You could have like a hero come in as like you could have a couple of heroes that rival Sombra for debuffing like enemies. Not necessarily hack them, but like maybe have like the opposite of Lucio, give like a small speed debuff to anyone that comes, any top one, like any player that comes within range of them. The same way that like Sims turrets do.
Well, that was why they had Sim in support category to begin with, because she promoted a shield and
Check this out.
Yeah, she never.
Charts, but they moved her to DPS because people didn't understand that support didn't necessarily heal.
I feel like if they were to introduce more characters like that, instead of having one, or I suppose technically, although when they introduced Sombra, like the way that she was hacking the original build of Hack the Health Pack, technically that was more support than DPS, but they introduced her as a DPS character.
Yeah, they introduced her as like you're supposed to use your Hack Health Pack around that.
Yeah, except she was classed as DPS, not support. Like you had her and Sim in the support category, and maybe something else that didn't do that much healing, but was more focused on the utility side of support and helping the team in other ways. Then you'd get that differentiation again, and people would understand that support is not just about healing.
I'd be happy if they just deleted the character. She annoys the ever-loving bleepity bleep out of me.
Who?
Sim, May.
I'm just
Well,
kind of like bashed.
I can deal with May. I tolerate May more than I tolerate Sim. I even get ticked off when they're on the same team.
Since playing in BTL, I've grown a hatred towards Junkrat, but that's for other reasons.
You know,
Are you one of the people that always finds the trap too?
Yeah, every
Junk
team
is
has
kind of annoying. But you know, at least now he takes some aim.
I think the one that annoys me the most is still Bastion, just because of how much coordination it takes to deal with him. Like, I feel like when you're queuing with random people, you don't get that level of coordination you need. Especially if he's like heavily protected.
Well, think about it. Junk has a stun movement stop. He has a boop. He has bounce aim, so he could hit like a wall and a half and hit you for full damage on each grenade.
I feel like grenade did less damage if it bounced, or is that a change they? If not, that's a change I'd like to see.
If it's a direct hit, it does the same damage regardless. Now,
I think after the second bounce it reduces or something like that.
oh, I didn't know that.
I think so.
I know that the splash damage is not the same as a direct, but I think if you bounce off the wall, it should be like the same as a splash damage. But a direct off the wall should be the same as a splash damage that doesn't bounce. That makes sense.
Alright, well, we are making this video longer than it should be, I think.
That's very
Going into tangents that aren't about 5v5.
well. There's a lot that needs to be fixed, and I mean, we're just a small piece of the pie, so it's obviously stuff that people have gone over. But to those who frequent our Discord and our Twitch and our YouTube, this is for you guys, so you know that we are also thinking about these things. And
comes honor.
Evan, I cannot believe you just left me. You left me.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, it's It's stuff that affects us, it's stuff that affects you, and
See through the dragon's eyes.
it's stuff that will come up later on, but not right now because Overwatch team takes forever actually bringing the game out or giving us new content. Oh! That will be it. I hope you guys enjoyed all of our tangents and all of our ranting. Delete them. And I hope you guys have a good night, good week, and win all your games.
All better. Now.
Did you just end that with delete Zen?
He did.
I think he said
I
delete
feel
Sim.
offended.
I feel attacked. Like, I don't main Zen, but like...
Hey,